You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
My first guest this morning is Maura O'Donoghue from the Kia Ora Mini Farm in Gorey, which is celebrating 21 years in business this year. Before we start on Kia Ora Mini Farm, I'd like to learn a little bit about your own background, please, Maura.
Well, I'm from a place called Buffer's Alley, and my name was Kavanagh, and I met Paddy, and we got married, and then we bought here the year we were married or so, and moved down, and we have reared 3 boys, and tried to start a business. I done bed and breakfast for 32 years, and moved on little by little, and then started the mini farm.
Where did the idea for Kia Ora Mini Farm come from?
I had a phone call one day from a friend of mine that wanted to bring children out to see young calves, and I asked him where he was going, and he said, well, they never saw them other than through the window of a car. So he came out and they loved it, and after that then I put on my thinking cap and thought there were nothing in the rural countryside for them to see other than through the window of a car, and I decided that I would look into it and went to Tenby, to a farm in Tenby, and got ideas there and came back and started my own farm.
So that was 21 years ago, ever before the day of the internet out there, and much harder to research, I suppose, a sector like that. How did you come about finding the mini farm in Tenby?
I can't remember really how I got it. I really don't know. Somebody must have told me, and we just went over on the boat and spent the day there, and got a great lot of information from the girl there, and she said to me that if we were thinking of doing it, to make sure that it was weatherproof, that we'd have something for a wet day, not to have it all outdoors. So we took that on board, and we have a couple of sheds now for the indoor of a wet day, and our sandpit is covered in, and it's quite okay for a wet day.
So I know that, look, with the weather conditions we have here in Ireland, it makes it an all-round business by having a roof over your head in terms of the mini farm outside. So when you came back from Tenby, tell me, what did you do after that?
Well, I tried to get my family to see what I was thinking, but none of them all thought I was mad, which I probably was at the time. And I went and sourced money myself and got it and started. And having the guest house at the time, I knew I could pay back my repayments, and got my repayments paid back in 5 years, and then I stopped the guest house.
So with the borrowed money, what did you spend it on?
I was hoping to put up a attached coffee shop, but of course that didn't materialise. So it was only a shed for a coffee shop, and put up another shed outside and done some paddocks and all that. And then every year after that we done some little thing to it. Year after year there was something done at it, let it be little or big.
After 5 years with Kia Ora Mini Farm up and running, you then stopped the guest house, you closed the guest house down at that stage and put all your effort and energy into the business. I know that 2 of your sons are involved as well. How involved are they today?
2 years ago, Padraig took over as things are going here now. He was a carpenter, and he took it over 2 years ago. And I suppose we kept him at home now from going to Canada or Australia or somewhere. And then Peter gives him a hand as well. He has employed Peter. And our grandchildren are involved in it, and they love coming up for the few hours now and again to give us a hand. And myself and Paddy, we try to keep the boat going, and unpaid guests, of course. And but sure, everything helps, and you have to try and do it now with the recession, and it's going very well, and we can't complain.
Tell me, over the years, what has worked in terms of building the business? Because look, you had an idea, you went to Tenby, you did your research, you got some great insight into how they were running their business in Tenby. You came back, you borrowed the money, you put in place the relevant infrastructure in terms of shed, cafe, paddocks and everything else. The hard part, you might say, was done at that stage, but in most cases the business is only beginning because you have to attract people in. What did you do, and what worked in terms of getting people to come in and actually visit the farm?
Well, we wrote to the schools to try and get some school tours, and it took a couple of years to get that off the ground, but we got that off the ground, and we still have schools coming back to us for 19 years, the same schools year after year. And then we didn't have any money to advertise, so we couldn't advertise on radio. Or we got some flyers done and we put out the flyers, and it was more or less word of mouth. That's what kept us going. And we couldn't afford to advertise in papers or anything like that at the time, because we didn't have the money. The money that we had, we put back into it, not into advertising. So it did pay off in the end.
In the area that you're based yourself in Gorey, I know there's lots of hotels and caravan parks and guest houses. How supportive were all of those?
Very supportive now. Probably they were afraid in the beginning of what we had, but they're all very supportive now. We there's a lot of houses and a lot of mobile homes and that, and we get the same people back year after year. They come back to us. So
there's a repeatability factor as well that's here with your own business?
Very much so. Very much so. We actually have grannies coming back now with grandchildren, that they had their own children here, and we're starting on that now with the grannies coming back with the grandchildren.
How far are people travelling to Kia Ora Mini Farm?
We have them from Dublin, Kilkenny, Carlow, Waterford. I suppose it's only an hour now from Dublin, so we get a lot of Dublin people would come down for the day, and they would bring a picnic with them. We encourage people to bring their picnics with them, and people will come with their picnics maybe about 11, 12 o'clock, and they'll stay till 4:30, 5 o'clock in the evening.
From a disability perspective, is a Kia Ora Mini Farm accessible for those with disabilities? Is there wheelchair access throughout?
Yes, there is. It's all wheelchair access, and we can supply a wheelchair as well, and the fire engine is even wheelchair friendly.
Tell me about this fire engine.
Well, 3 of the lads went to an auction in Enniscorthy for something else, for a dump truck, and they came home with 2 fire engines, and we got it customised, and it holds 24, and it can put in 2 wheelchairs, so it's going very, very well.
What's the fire engine being used for now?
Everybody's brought on a trip on the fire engine. It takes about just 10 minutes to go down through the forestry and back up, and there's a little small television on it, and there's a sing-song on your way down, and they have that in such a way now that it runs for the length of time that they're going down and back.
Okay, you mentioned earlier that you're constantly working on adapting the facility outside to improve it. What have you done there in recent years that has worked very well in that regard?
The year before last, Padraig, we have been talking about putting up a maze for years, and our land down here is not very good. So Padraig came up with the idea the year before last, and he designed a maze himself. Friendly maze, shall we say. There's no hedging, it's all netting instead of hedging, and it works very well because you can see the children in it, and if a child gets lost, it can see the parents, and then we have a slide down out of it, so it's working very well. Is there much of a seasonality aspect to your own business? We did start with just June, July and August, and then I got the idea of trying to do something for seasonal, and we started then on Easter, and we used to open at Easter and do the Easter egg run and bunnies and that, and then a couple of years, I think about 2 years after reopening, I got this idea of doing Santa Claus. I know that Wexford Local Development have been advertising farm diversification grants there in recent times. How supportive have Wexford Local Development and Leader been of your own facility? Yes, Padraig was successful in getting a grant off of Leader for a solar photovoltaic system, and he got a grant for the maze as well. So, he's looking into it now to try and see if there's another couple of bob to come out of that, and it does make a big difference to get it, if it's possible. Have you seen much of a difference in your electricity costs since the solar photovoltaic system has been introduced? We have indeed. There was a big difference at Christmas, was when we saw the big difference, because there's thousands and thousands of lights here at Christmas, and our bill was less than half this year, and which was fantastic. So all the wind and the sun can keep us going, hopefully. What's the plan for Kia Ora Mini Farm over the next few years? Well, Padraig, I always was one that I always thought way in advance, and I'm afraid he's the same. And I'd nearly be afraid to ask him what he had in his head at the moment. But he is trying to make a forest walk now that will be up and coming in the next couple of years, and God knows what else he has in his head, and I know he has plenty in his head, but definitely there will be something done every year let it be little or much, but there will be something done every year to improve it and to keep it going.
Well, it's certainly a great success story for County Wexford, and I'd like to take this opportunity to wish both yourself and your family continued success in the future with the Kia Ora Mini Farm.
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.